When you hear the phrase inner peace, what is the very first image that flashes into your mind?
Oh, I mean, it's almost always a cliche, right?
Totally. It's like for most of us, it's a deeply ingrained cultural cliche. We picture a monk sitting cross legged on a misty mountaintop.
Yeah, or someone in, like, flowing linen pants.
Exactly. Flowing pants, eyes closed, completely detached from the chaos of modern life. We've essentially been trained to view peace as an escape hatch.
Right, like a way to just opt out.
Yeah, a state that required you to zone out, turn off your emotions, and completely remove yourself from the loud, messy reality of, a busy, overloaded life. But today, we're going to challenge that entire
I
framework.
really are.
Welcome to the deep dive. In our stack today, we are looking closely at a fascinating philosophical essay titled The Holy Space of Harmony.
Such a great piece.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this because this text completely deconstructs what the modern wellness industry tells us about tranquility. The author argues that true inner peace is not about escaping your life at all.
Not even a little bit.
Right, it is actually the most practical, resilient tool you have for living it.
It is a profound reframing, and I think it's essential for anyone who feels like they are failing at mindfulness because their life is simply too complicated.
Yes, the people who try to meditate and just make grocery lists in their head.
Exactly. What makes this essay so compelling is its core thesis. Peace is an interior condition. It is a holy space that is already fully formed inside of you.
Wait, already formed?
Yes, it is not a distant goal you have to strive for. It's not a reward you earn for meditating for 10,000 hours, and it's not a state you construct from scratch.
Oh, wow. So you don't build it.
No, you don't. The author posits that peace is your natural ground condition. It is sitting there, beneath all the daily noise, pristine and uncorrupted regardless of what external chaos you happen to be navigating.
Which, I mean, that immediately presents a logical puzzle.
How so?
Well, if peace isn't the absence of chaos, and it isn't just muting all the difficult stuff so you can sit in a state of blank, emotionless bliss, I mean, what are we actually talking about?
Right, it forces a new definition.
Yeah, we have to completely redefine what the word harmony means in a psychological context. Because clearly, the author doesn't mean everything in your life is suddenly quiet and perfectly aligned.
Exactly. And the essay gives us a very precise mechanical definition. Inner peace is defined here as a relationship to experience rather than a replacement of it.
Got a relationship too.
Yes, let's really look at the mechanics of that distinction. The goal isn't to replace your grief, your anger, or your anxiety with a blank slate of calm.
Which is what everyone tries to do.
Right. Instead, it is the capacity to remain structurally coherent while those complex emotions are occurring. You can hold the full, messy range of human emotion without being dismantled by it.
That's a massive shift in perspective.
It really is. A person who is genuinely at peace in this framework can still grieve deeply. They can rage against injustice. The difference lies entirely in the underlying architecture.
The architecture.
Yeah. Whether the feeling is allowed to move through them or whether it destroys their foundation.
Okay, so they aren't swept away in the flood. They feel the cold water. They acknowledge the current, but like their feet remain firmly planted on the riverbed.
That's it, exactly. It's a way of standing in relation to your own depths.
Huh.
You don't collapse under the weight of your own feelings,
Right.
but crucially, you also don't expend massive amounts of energy trying to run away from them or suppress them.
If we apply that definition, it really shifts how we need to view internal harmony, because we usually think of harmony as total agreement, right?
Yeah, everyone nodding along.
Exactly. Everyone in the room nodding along, or every part of your brain perfectly aligned on a single goal. But reading through the author's arguments, I kept mapping this onto acoustics and music.
Oh, I love that connection.
Yeah, think about it. If you play a musical chord on a piano, that chord isn't just one single note played in unison by three fingers.
Right, that would just be unison.
Exactly. A rich, complex chord is made of different mathematically conflicting frequencies. You have a root note, a major third, maybe a perfect fifth. By themselves, or played slightly off, they create friction, dissonance.
Which can sound terrible.
Right. But when you hold those completely distinct contradictory notes in the exact right relationship to one another, they don't erase each other. They interact to create something incredibly beautiful.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
It feels like the essay is arguing that our internal lives operate on the exact same acoustic principles.
That is a highly accurate way to visualize it, and it aligns beautifully with what the text calls interior architecture.
Okay, yeah.
What's fascinating here is that psychological harmony isn't asking your competing desires, your core values, and your painful memories to stop being what they are.
It's not flattening them out.
Exactly. It's not forcing them into a bland unison. It is about creating a structure wide enough to hold them in the right relationship. And the author uses a phrase here that I find remarkable to describe the result of this architecture.
Oh, what was it?
They call inner peace the silence that makes music possible.
Oh, wow. The silence that makes music possible. That's a sharp distinction. It's the negative space around the notes.
Precisely. You need the silence to give the notes definition.
Yeah.
And creating that internal space requires what the author terms patient architecture.
Patient architecture.
Yes. When this kind of harmony is present inside you, there is a profound quality of listening to your own internal state. You stop choosing sides among your own internal contents.
You stop playing favorites with your feelings.
Exactly. You observe your conflicting desires, you hear your fears, and you allow that internal dissonance to exist without immediately deploying a tactical squad to fix it or force a resolution.
You just let it be loud for a second.
Right. You stop pathologizing your own complexity.
Okay, so if this patient architecture is about holding space for our internal friction without going to war with it, the natural next question for me is, where is this architecture physically located?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right, because in traditional self-help, we frame a lack of peace as a cognitive error, a mindset issue.
Naturally. It's all about your thoughts.
Yeah. If I am stressed, the conventional wisdom says I just need a new mental framework. I need to do a cognitive behavioral reframe, logic my way out of the anxiety, and peace will follow. But the text aggressively pushes back against that top-down approach.
It does, and this is where the essay moves from philosophy into human biology. The text asserts that inner peace lives in the body before it lives anywhere else.
The body, not the mind.
Yes. And structurally, this makes complete sense when we look at the autonomic nervous system. Your nervous system carries an ancient evolutionary mechanism called neuroception.
Neuroception. Break that down for us.
So it is constantly scanning your environment for safety and threat, completely below the level of your conscious awareness.
Like a background radar.
Exactly. If your nervous system detects a threat, it shifts your physiology into a state of defense. You simply cannot lay a peaceful, rational state of mind over a biological system that is actively bracing for an attack.
It just doesn't compute.
No, the cognitive brain basically goes offline.
Now, obviously, most of us who follow psychology know that stress manifests in the body. We know about clenched jaws and tense shoulders.
Sure, the physical symptoms.
Right. But what the author does here that is so interesting is reclassifying that physical tension. It's not just an uncomfortable symptom of a bad day. It is a literal drain on our internal resources. The text talks about releasing the chronic readiness for impact.
Yes, the chronic readiness. And let's explore why that happens. Because of evolutionary mismatch, our nervous systems often can't tell the difference between a social threat, like, say, a passive-aggressive email from a boss.
Oh, the absolute worst.
Right. It can't tell the difference between that email and a physical predator. So you read the email, and your body initiates a cascade of survival responses. You brace your core, your breathing becomes shallow.
Your shoulders end up by your ears.
Exactly. You clench your jaw to prepare for a physical strike. We walk around all day in this state of chronic readiness for impact, responding to invisible predators.
And trying to use positive affirmations while your biology thinks you are about to be eaten is fundamentally useless.
It's like putting a Band-Aid on a fire alarm.
Yeah. There's a line in the text that hit me hard. Peace that bypasses the body is philosophy. Peace that includes the body is transformation. It really highlights why we can't just think our way out of a physiological response.
Exactly. And the cost of this isn't just physical discomfort, it's about energy allocation.
Energy allocation.
Yeah. When your body is constantly bracing for a hit, your system is funneling massive amounts of metabolic and psychological energy into an internal defense budget.
Oh, I see.
When you finally practice somatic release,
Right.
when you deliberately soften your belly, unclench your teeth, and deepen your breath, you are signaling to your nervous system that the environment is safe.
You're calling off the troops.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when that defense budget is suddenly freed up, all of that tied-up energy becomes available to you as pure, unadulterated aliveness.
So it's not that we are all inherently exhausted. It's that our energy is entirely tied up in a covert arms race against our own lives.
That's a great way to phrase it. An arms race. The body is the first temple. You have to establish safety there through breath, posture, and rest before the mind can even begin to access that holy space of harmony.
Okay, but if we map that onto our daily lives, it brings up a critical contradiction for me.
What's that?
Well, If peace is our natural ground condition and we have the physiological tools to access it by signaling safety to the body, why do we so consistently fail at it?
That is the core struggle, isn't it?
Right. If the space is already inside us, what is constantly triggering that neuroception of threat when there isn't an actual tiger in the room? Or, a terrifying email?
Well, we almost always blame our lack of peace on external variables.
Mhm.
We blame the demanding client, the geopolitical news cycle, the traffic.
Because it feels like it's their fault.
Of course. But the essay argues a vital point. External events do not dictate our internal harmony. It is our relationship to those events that creates the disturbance.
Give me an example of that.
Consider two people who experience the exact same profound failure in their career. One person is completely shattered, their identity crumbles, and they fall into a deep depression.
Right. A total collapse.
The other person is deeply disappointed. I mean, they aren't robotically numb,
Mhm.
but they remain coherent. They process the failure and pivot. The external circumstance was identical. The difference is entirely in their interior architecture.
So if the external event is just a neutral trigger, the real disturber has to be our internal translation of it. We're filtering the event through something else.
Precisely. And the author points to several invisible conditions that generate this disturbance. Things like the persistence of unprocessed emotional material.
The stuff we haven't dealt with.
Exactly. The chronic suppression of your own truth. Performing a fake self for the approval of others. Or constantly avoiding a reality that, deep down needs to be faced.
Wow.
These are the actual mechanisms that destroy peace. They create an internal noise, a kind of psychological static that obscures the holy space.
Okay, the static analogy works perfectly here because it's like an old analog radio, right?
Perfectly.
The radio station, the holy space of harmony, is transmitting a continuous, clear signal. It never stops broadcasting.
It's always there.
But when you are actively suppressing your truth, or when you are putting on a mask to navigate a social situation, you are physically nudging the radio dial slightly off the frequency. You are generating static.
Exactly right.
The music is still there, but you can't hear it over the crackle of your own inauthenticity.
Let's look at the cognitive load of that inauthenticity, too, because it's massive.
It takes so much work to fake it.
It does. When you perform a fake self, say, you are in a workplace meeting and you vehemently disagree with a strategy, but you smile and perform agreement to maintain the status quo. You are actively splitting your consciousness.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. You are maintaining the facade externally while managing the resentment internally. That requires continuous physiological and psychological effort. That effort is the static.
And because that static is so uncomfortable, we end up externalizing it.
How do you mean?
Well, like, the frustration of suppressing our truth in the meeting bleeds out, and suddenly we are snapping at our partner, overloading the dishwasher, thinking the dishwasher is the problem.
Yes, which is why the author suggests that these moments of conflict or distress are not just annoyances to be managed, they are diagnostic tools.
Like check engine lights.
Exactly. There are internal alarms. When you find yourself highly reactive or shrinking yourself to fit into a relationship, that static is pointing directly toward an area of your life that requires honest attention.
So you have to listen to the static.
You do. If you meet that alarm with curiosity rather than avoidance, you tune the dial back. You restore access to the harmony that was underneath it all along.
See, this sounds incredibly cohesive in theory, but this is where I have to push back a little on the text's ultimate conclusions about how we interact with the world.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because the author claims that achieving this inner peace doesn't isolate us. They claim it makes us more available to a chaotic world. They shatter the myth of withdrawal.
Right.
But from a purely biological standpoint, emotional contagion is a real, measurable phenomenon. We have mirror neurons.
We do.
If I'm standing with someone who is drowning in grief or radiating panic, my nervous system is wired to mirror their state. How is it mechanically possible to remain fully reachable and hold space for their pain without just absorbing their anxiety and losing my own hard-won peace?
That's a very fair question.
Doesn't the pursuit of peace eventually require boundaries that look a lot like withdrawal?
It's a crucial pushback. And the distinction lies in the difference between empathy and compassionate differentiation.
Compassionate differentiation.
Yeah. You are entirely correct about mirror neurons and emotional contagion.
Uh-huh.
However, when you are not actively managing a massive load of your own suppressed static, your nervous system's threshold for tolerance changes.
Oh, interesting.
If your internal architecture is cluttered with your own unexamined fears, Someone else's grief will resonate with your unprocessed material, and your body will tag their emotion as a threat to your survival.
Wow.
You will absorb it, panic, and either try to forcibly fix their problem or withdraw completely to protect yourself.
So the contagion is amplified because it's catching fire on my own dry tinder.
Exactly. But if you have done the architectural work, if you are grounded in your body and not fighting your own internal contents, you can witness their pain without your nervous system perceiving it as a survival threat.
Because your core is safe.
Right. You don't have to merge with their emotion to validate it. You become a stable container. The text describes this profoundly as not softness that collapses, but stillness that holds.
Stillness that holds. That completely re-engineers the concept of boundaries.
It really does.
Because a boundary isn't a wall you build to keep the world out. It's the structural integrity of your own foundation. It allows you to be deeply compassionate without being consumed. But maintaining that structural integrity can't be a one-off event. It requires constant maintenance.
Which brings us to the actual mechanics of application. The practice of inner peace, according to the essay, is simply the act of return.
The act of return.
Yeah, we have this false expectation that peace is a destination. That you do enough therapy, you meditate enough, you plant a flag on the summit, and you are peacefully enlightened forever.
And you never get mad in traffic again.
Right, which is impossible.
Yeah.
It is actually a territory that you wander away from and must return to again and again through incredibly ordinary mechanisms.
And those mechanisms are the physical and honest choices we make in micro moments.
Yes. Taking one full, deliberate breath that signals safety to the vagus nerve.
Just one breath.
Sometimes that's all it takes. Or feeling the physical sensation of the chair you are sitting in to pull your brain out of anxious abstraction and back into the present reality.
Getting back in the body.
Exactly. It is the micro choice to speak a difficult truth rather than performing compliance. Every single one of these seemingly mundane actions is a mechanism of return. They tune the dial back to the frequency.
You know, what I find most compelling about this framework is a specific word the author uses to describe the long-term result of this practice. They say that over time, the practitioner develops intimacy with themselves.
That is a beautiful concept.
I think it's brilliant. It strips away the pressure of achieving some elevated spiritual perfection. Intimacy is just felt familiarity.
Yes.
It means you have visited that peaceful, coherent territory inside yourself enough times that you have mapped the route. Even when the external world gets incredibly loud, even when your own static flares up, you know the exact coordinates of your own center.
You know the way back.
Right. The act of returning becomes less effortful because you aren't searching for a new destination. You are just walking a well-worn path home.
It is a growing closeness with what was always already present. You don't have to attain it. You simply cultivate an intimacy with your own architecture.
As we synthesize all of this, it becomes clear just how practical this philosophy is. For you, listening right now, it means you can permanently discard the fantasy of the monk on the mountaintop.
Throw it completely away.
You do not need an empty calendar or a silent retreat to access the holy space of harmony. Peace is fundamentally about your relationship to your immediate experience.
In the exact moment.
Yes, it begins mechanically, right now, in your physical body, by noticing where you are bracing for impact, unclensing your jaw, and signaling safety to your nervous system.
Releasing that internal defense budget.
Exactly. It is understanding that your inner friction is not a flaw, but notes in a chord that needs space to resonate. It gets obscured by the exhausting performance of ignoring your truth, but it never actually vacates the premises.
Always broadcasting.
Always. And most importantly, finding it is a constant moment-by-moment practice of returning to your center so you can engage with your complex life with a stillness that holds.
To build on that synthesis, I really want to leave you with a final thought to examine as you move through the rest of your day.
Yeah, please.
We know that inner peace is a territory we repeatedly return to, not a fragile glass sculpture we have to constantly protect.
Right.
If that is true, how might that fundamentally alter the way you interpret your very next moment of distress? Think about the inevitable friction coming your way today. The unexpectedly harsh email, the difficult conversation, the sudden wave of overwhelm.
The static.
The static. What if that impending spike of anxiety isn't a failure of your mindfulness? What if that tension is simply the necessary trigger, the acoustic feedback, reminding you that you have wandered off the frequency and inviting you to simply tune the dial and find your way back home?
The friction isn't the enemy, it is the map. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this exploration helps you uncover the music beneath the static. Keep questioning, keep returning, and we will catch you next time.